stories. There are more that did not recognize him than those who did. We have on the one hand John the Baptist. John did recognize him, knew him, baptized him, prepared the way for him. And there was Peter, the disciple, the apostle Peter. He recognized Jesus and named him the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of the living God. There was Mary, the mother of Jesus, who, beyond the story of Christ's birth, we don't hear very much of until we get to the end of Jesus' story in the crucifixion. And there are, of course, the shepherds who came down out of the hills to see the newborn baby. Simeon, who offered the blessing to the baby when Mom and Dad brought him into the temple for his blessing. Anna, who was a prophet and recognized him. And we might, too, include the wise men who traveled from the east to bow down and worship to him. And then on the other hand, we have those like his brothers, his own family, who didn't believe what Jesus was saying, didn't believe him or in him. The Jewish leaders who were looking for a way to kill him because his teachings of blasphemy. The people of Nazareth, his own hometown, where he was, they tried to hurl him off a cliff. We have the chief priests, the scribes, the elders of the church telling Jesus they didn't believe that he had any authority to say what he was saying, to do the things he was doing, to teach the things he was teaching. And then we see large crowds who gathered to listen when Jesus spoke, such as those who he gave to with the Sermon on the Mount. He's on the mountain and teaching the Beatitudes, a large crowd of people that listened to him. Yet many of them came to him not for his teachings, but for his healing. The ability that he had to cure illness and disease and to feed the hungry, all those thousands who gathered to hear him. They had heard that he would convert loaves of bread, a few, into many, and a few fish into many, and would feed 5,000 or 7,000. They came in part because of the food. His teachings, on the other hand, did not make a lot of sense to them. They didn't quite understand, weren't able to follow, weren't able to comprehend what Jesus said to them. Now, this isn't that unusual when you think about it. Jesus was teaching a new way of how we are to treat one another, what we should do and not do. And those teachings were strange and confusing and disturbing to many. Jesus taught new concepts like those who are poor in spirit, they are blessed. They will be welcomed in the kingdom of heaven. Those who mourn in sadness and sorrow and grief are blessed. They will be comforted. Those who are meek will inherit the earth. Wait a minute. Are you saying that the vocal, the loud, the powerful, the demanding, the A-type personalities are not going to inherit the earth, but the meek? Those who show mercy, have love for others, and are peacemakers will be blessed and welcomed into the kingdom of heaven. He also taught we should not murder, nor should we carry anger for one another in our hearts. We should not judge others. The people are saying to themselves, if they listen to these teachings and more, they're saying, this is new to us. We've never heard this before. Why haven't the Pharisees and the elders of the church, why haven't they taught us these things before? Why haven't we heard this before? And so for them, the teachings, these new concepts, ideas, and practices, or new ways of doing things, new way of being, was difficult to accept and difficult to give sense or credence to, difficult to believe. After all, weren't the Pharisees, the elders, the church leaders, the conductors between us and God and between God and us? Why didn't they know about these things? And then we see what happens when they begin to follow these new teachings, to live out the life that Christ calls us to. There's persecution, criticism, anger, disbelief, ostracism. And that's what the followers of Jesus, the disciples, the apostles, the early Christians all faced when beginning to live out the teachings of Jesus Christ. It was never easy. It is never easy. One reason it's not easy is because the results of changing those practices in our life are often intangible. It's hard to measure the outcome. I pray for those who are persecuted, and pray I should. But I have no idea if their life becomes better because I prayed for them, or if it stays the same or gets worse. And if I'm the one being persecuted, what good does it do me if I know that someone out there is praying for me and that there is a kingdom that I will go to after my death? How is that going to stop my persecutors from hurting me now? I show mercy, forgiveness, and grace to someone in need. And again, I should. Maybe I feel better in doing so, although it's not about me. It's about the someone. And maybe that someone feels better for the moment or the day, but what about tomorrow? What about when I'm not there to show this someone mercy and forgiveness and grace and care and love? What happens then? Someone I know is in poor spirit, and I offer that person prayer and encouragement, and I extend an invitation to a virtual seat or an in-person seat to our Sunday morning worship. And the person isn't interested. How do I know if what I'm doing is good for that poor person or not? And where is that person's comfort? They'll have a place in heaven after they die. But what about now? What about right now? It seems so difficult to be enthused by something so ethereal, albeit divine. But you know what I do find tangible and I do believe in? Money. I either have it or I don't have it. That's an easy, measurable. Employment, not what will happen in the future, not what's happened in the past, but employment today and now. I either have it or don't. Either my health is good or it's not. I have cancer or I don't. I have acute arthritis or I don't. I have a neurological disorder or I don't. Can I put food on the table today? Pay the heating bill, put gas in the car. These are all tangible items. They're measurable, they're hard. I can hold them in my hand. That I can believe in. Perhaps I'm sounding a little bit like Doubting Thomas. If I see, I will believe. But then this new teacher comes along and offers me something tangible. Even though I don't understand what he's saying, I don't understand his teachings, I just don't know where he's going with all of that. But he does give me some tangibles. Food on the table. Me and my friend, we went to the mountainside the other day. We heard his strange teachings. Didn't make sense. But after that, he fed the crowd of people that had been listening to him all day. He changed a few loaves of bread and some fish into many that fed thousands. And it wasn't just yesterday. He's done this before. That's something tangible. I can take that bread and that fish, hold it in my hands, take it home to feed my family, put it on the table. I'll follow this guy as long as he continues to feed me. That's the easy part. But understanding his teachings is hard. John chapter 6 tells this story. When many of his disciples heard it, Jesus' teachings, they said, "This is a hard saying. Who can listen to it?" But Jesus, knowing in himself that his disciples were grumbling about this, said to them, "Do you take offense at this? The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life. There are some of you who do not believe." And after this, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. His teachings were just too hard. And they did not want to make changes to their life to accommodate his teachings. Because they didn't understand, because they didn't believe, because they didn't have faith.